最後になるんですけど、小田さんにとってワンピースとは何でしょうか？
One Piece seems to be a simple story of pirates with crazy powers and typical shonen fights, but it's much more than that for many fans. The tale, created by Eiichiro Oda, has continued to be told for 26 years at the time of this video's writing, and over the course of all these years, it slowly but surely placed itself as the best-selling manga of all time. With millions of fans around the world, with a strong presence in every local convention, selling over 500 million copies, while all the time inspiring an entire generation of artists and creators. Nowadays, One Piece is a billion-dollar franchise, with entire sports teams, athletes, and even celebrities openly declaring their love for the series. Its live-action adaptation, which just released in late August of this year, is considered by many to be the most successful anime live-action adaptation of all time on Netflix. One Piece has undoubtedly become one of the biggest mainstream cultural and entertainment icons of this century. So sometimes I stop to think and ask, how did this all actually happen? How has One Piece risen to such heights, and why has One Piece captivated the hearts of so many? And today, folks, we're going to answer those very questions. But to do so, we must first go back to a different time. We must go back to 1975. The world was in a turbulent period in 1975. In the midst of the Cold War and experiencing the Vietnam War, this year would see the United States enter recession and Britain's inflation spiral out of control. Important technological and cultural advancements and events still flourished despite the hardships. VHS would become the home video recording standard after a long corporate battle with Sony and the Japanese Ministry of International Trade and Industry. Jaws released and became the highest grossing film of all time at the time, and two guys named Bill Gates and Paul Allen would create the company you know as Microsoft. The Vietnam War would also end this year, along with the United States' 20-year presence in the country. But before many of these world-shaping events took place, our story begins at the very start of the year, when a little boy named Eiichiro Oda was born on the very 1st of January in Kumamoto City, Japan. Not much is known about his parents and early life, as Oda and his family have always been private and reserved about this. Oda is even known for requesting his face to be censored or edited during public appearances. And there are all sorts of funny gags he draws in the manga and the SPS to represent himself, like his fish head avatar. But we know his mother was a housewife and his father, Seiichiro Oda, was a salaryman who oil painted as a hobby. Oda knew from very early in his life that he wanted to become a manga artist. As a kid, he was exposed to many comic series like The Monster Kid by Fujiko Fujio, and by 4 years old he was inspired by this series and his father's painting to become a mangaka, because he believed they made money doing no real work. And while this is hilarious and worthy of legends at the same time, little kid Oda wasn't quite prepared for the reality of a manga artist's life. It was during these early years that Oda first grew his lifelong love interest for pirates and Vikings with his favorite TV show Vicky the Viking, an European anime series co-produced between Germany, Austria and Japan about a Viking boy who's physically weak but is able to surpass obstacles and problems through his intelligence and wit. In an interview from 2016, he's quoted saying, "There is an anime known as Viking the Viking. I like that anime." One of the scenes I remember is one in which it said, "Tomorrow I'll go sailing out with father." I'm quite fond of that scene, and since then the idea of drawing a manga related to pirates like that started to grow in my mind. However, it wasn't until his 5th grade, around 1986, that he'd come about one of his biggest inspirations. A little known series by the name of Dragon Ball had just been released in December 1984, and when 10-year-old Oda saw the second episode of the anime, which was released in 1986, he was completely locked in. This moment began a lifelong admiration for the series and its creator Akira Toriyama, whose artwork and storytelling would become a heavy inspiration in Oda's work and later One Piece. In a Jump interview, Oda says, "I mirrored many traits and tropes for Luffy off of Son Goku. By far, the manga that inspired me the most was Dragon Ball, and I think that the same could be said for many other mangaka, but the simple fact is, if there was no Dragon Ball, there would be no One Piece. By junior high, around the 8th grade, Oda was already set on creating a pirate series, as it is at this time that he begins to develop concepts, ideas and sketches for what would later become One Piece. This growing focus on drawing manga would even cause him to quit soccer in the first year of high school, a sport he picked up during the 5th grade inspired by the popular series Captain Tsubasa. But everything changed in 1992 during Oda's senior high school year when he was 17. At this time he took an interest in the prestigious Tezuka Awards, a semi-annual manga competition organized by Shueisha and its magazine Weekly Shonen Jump. Many other influential manga artists awarded this prize have made their career debuts due to it, such as Takehiko Inoue, the author of Slam Dunk and Vagabond. Oda was intent on aiming for this prize, and he spent 4 months drawing his first full-length manga to compete. It was at this time that Oda gathered all his amateur experience from his youth and really faced his prospects of being a mangaka seriously. What he finished drawing at the end of those months was Wanted, a one-shot Western-inspired manga that follows the story of a bounty hunter named Wild Joe and the wanted criminal Jill Bastard. Much of Oda's signature style can already be seen in Wanted, and even compared to the earlier One Piece manga. Although proud of this work, Oda was so concerned that his parents and teachers might not approve of this crazy dream that he submitted it under the pseudonym Tsuki Himizuki Kondo, which is a wordplay on the days of the week. But in the end, he was right to be proud of his work and wrong to be concerned, because Wanted was awarded second-class prize in the competition, which won Oda a whopping 500,000 yen, or $3,418, which would be about $7,447 in today's money. A quite generous sum, but even more than financial earnings, this won Oda a lot of recognition from industry professionals and connections, and his work was published in Shueisha's Mezaze Mangaka volume, which was a collection of the winner's works. Oda had taken a big first step towards his childhood dream. In the spring of 1993, Oda graduated high school and pursued an architecture university degree in Kyushu, but continued working hard to create more manga and submit more of his work to Shueisha. Unaware that he had access and the ability to be included in the Weekly Shonen Jump monthly issue, he finds his publication God's Gift to the World, which by the way is the first work where Oda tried hard to build a story, published in the monthly line. So instead, he submitted a third work, Ikiyaku, to the Hopstep Awards, which secures the first place prize for the first time in his career. With this work being published in the Weekly Shonen Jump Spring Special in early 1994, this placed Oda as an accomplished rising young mangaka, with 3 published works, 2 of them with prestigious prize victories. During his freshman exams, Oda drops out of university and moves to Tokyo to pursue a mangaka career, and through his connections and experiences is able to get a job at Shonen Jump as an assistant manga artist, under the editor Kaoru Kushima, marking the beginning of his professional career. But before becoming a professional manga artist, Oda had to hone his skills. As his first assistant work, Oda was assigned to work under the manga artist Shinobu Kaitani, known for the One-Outs and Liar Game series. Kaitani's series Midoriyama Police Gang was on its final run in Jump, and through the short 1-month tenure, Oda worked with Kaitani on its last few chapters, giving Oda his first experience with actual professional manga production. The thing that shocked me the most was the beauty of the final draft. Since Jump's pages are made of recycled paper, they feel all rough and look dirty, right? But the original molds are remarkably beautiful, 10 times more beautiful than I imagined. My own work wasn't even worthy of comparison. When Kaitani's Midoriyama Police Gang had finished its run, Oda went on to work with Masaya Tokuhiro, the mangaka known for Jungle King Tarchan and Kappa-man. Oda would work with Tokuhiro for a full 18 months, which would be the longest tenure of his training period. During this time, Oda learned not only the technical process of manga creation, but the work ethic needed to become a successful mangaka. I admired how he was able to chug along through his work exactly as he planned. He is a real professional. I always try to learn that by observing, but I guess I'm just not that kind of manga author. I was only with him for about a year and a half, but he really taught me a great deal of things. How to draw the character of a profile, techniques for expression, and so on. Since I quit, we don't exchange much more than New Year's cards, but he made a huge contribution to my life. But Oda wanted more. During his first year as an assistant, Oda created many drafts for original manga series, but almost all of them were rejected by his editor Kaoru Kushima. Having several achievements under his belt, Oda was overconfident about his abilities and clashed with his editor all the time. At first, when I moved to Tokyo, I thought, oh well, I've already gotten an award, so I'll be on top in no time. However, none of the storyboards I drew got accepted. I was a young fool, so I really underestimated manga. Back then, I just mainly thought that, like movies, if my story was interesting, then it'd be good enough. And you'd notice that in the storyboard I drew for my one-shots. But editors also want there to be appealing and interesting characters, pillars to my manga, to go along with my story. And I guess that this gap in perception was big. Every time I'd go to the editing department, I submitted a new storyboard, but a great number of those never got published. His overconfidence prevented him from taking criticism from Kushima, but his relationship remained positive, and Oda eventually was able to publish one of his one-shot stories, Monsters, in the 1994 Shonen Jump Autumn Special. Just a side note, it was announced that an anime adaptation of Monsters is in production as of 2023, so look forward to that. This one-shot publishing was a defining moment for Oda, not because it expanded on his artistic style, but because it was the first time that Oda was able to realize his inadequacies and how Kushima was right about many of his criticisms. At first he told me, "Your art lacks substance." I hadn't figured it out by myself yet, but when my one-shot Monsters got published in an actual magazine, I realized this myself for the first time. When I tried to read my own manga the same way I'd read the Pro Mangas artist series my manga was aligned with, I realized the true meaning of Kushima's words, though it was frustrating to admit. Once he had this realization, Oda went to work to improve his skills. He'd reportedly watch Disney movies like Peter Pan and The Little Mermaid and copy all of the art and facial expressions he liked. He'd buy movie magazines and draw all the faces he could find. When Kushima told him that none of the women he drew were cute, Oda didn't sleep in order to practice drawing women all the time. But no matter how much Oda trained, he still couldn't get past the gates of publishing, and wouldn't publish anything during the year 1995 while working under Tokuhiro. But Kappaman would end the following year, and Oda would begin his final assistant work under Nobuhiro Watsuki, the creator of the popular series Rurouni Kenshin. Unlike the previous senior mangaka Oda worked with, Watsuki was much less protective of his work and allowed his assistants to participate in the creation of the series, with Oda being credited for conceptualizing Honjo Kamatari from Rurouni Kenshin. Watsuki would foster a place where these great connections between these assistants would flourish, and Oda is quoted many times talking about how special this time was for him. There were many assistants in the studio that all had big aspirations to become big, but the most notable one was Hiroyuki Takei, known for the creation of the popular Shaman King series, who Oda would consider his most notable rival. But aside from the great atmosphere and making new friends, the pressure of constant rejections and making a name for himself was still a great source of suffering for Oda, one that he'd keep to himself due to the competitive nature of the manga industry. Working as an assistant back then wasn't really hard on me, but it rather felt like I was being rescued. It was like a fun camping trip where you'd sleep over with your fellow manga-loving friends and spend time drawing. But my painful struggle to come up with a new manga was something I'd keep to myself. That part I would, under no circumstances, show my brothers in arms. The manga assistant workplaces were fun places to be at, but my friends there were also my rivals. Every one of us would keep quiet about the next series we were drawing, and when I'd go back home, I'd silently let my pen flow, thinking excitedly about the ideas I had that nobody knew about. My editor, to whom I'd show my storyboards, was the main person with whom I discussed my manga. Kojima and I'd get too excited during meetings, and we'd scream so hard at each other in restaurants that people would think we were having a fight. Thus far, Oda had a great curriculum at just 21 years old, but he had only published one-shots. In order to make it into serialization and have a long-lasting series, he would need something different, and that needed to happen fast. But to properly understand why Oda was in this time pinch, we need to learn a bit more about Shonen Jump's situation at this time. In 1996, Shonen Jump was experiencing a rapid fall in sales after the biggest decade of growth the company had ever seen. The so-called golden age of Shonen Jump was the period between 1983 and 1996, marked by the beginning of the Fist of the North Star and ending with Slam Dunk, with the most popular series in this age being Dragon Ball. Many other masterpieces you may know were born during this time, such as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Hajime no Ippo, and Saint Seiya. During this time, while there were no solid numbers to speak of, Shonen Jump grew exponentially and established itself as the best manga magazine in Japan, as well as becoming known internationally. So after Dragon Ball and Slam Dunk ended in 96, pretty much at the same time, a massive hole of excellence was left in Shonen Jump, and every single mangaka was fighting to be the next big thing, while at the same time, Shonen Jump was gatekeeping anything that was less than perfection. In a discussion with Gosho Hayama, the creator of Detective Conan, Oda paints the picture of this time perfectly. After Dragon Ball ended, the world of shonen manga was dominated by two works, Detective Conan and the Kindaichi Case Files. It was a time in which both Dragon Ball and Slam Dunk ended right after the other, and lots of people thought Jump would be in huge trouble. It was a shock for all of us newcomers who came to the magazine to claim the series' abandoned throne. At that time, the fight for the place Dragon Ball left would begin, and for 2 years everyone would get their series compared and completely crushed until I finally survived. At this point, the overwhelming number of rejections started to become unbearable, and Oda was brought to the point where he was contemplating giving up on his dream to become a manga artist. No matter how many independent drafts he came up with, he just couldn't get anything accepted for publishing despite how much confidence he had in the idea, and he wondered if he could still go back to working as a white-collar worker. The anxiety was too much for him. That's when Kushima, with whom I'd been having discussions the whole time, told me, "I've never seen anyone who works as hard as you and doesn't get rewarded for it." Those words are what saved me. I cried. After that, I felt better and was able to set my mind on continuing to work hard. Oda mustered his last remaining strength for one final attempt, but this time it really would be different. He went back to his middle school pirate serial concepts and started to develop the material into a fully fledged one-shot story named Romance Dawn. Oda deliberately wrote it as the beginning of a bigger story, making it clear it was meant to be continued. To Oda's relief and surprise, Kushima was actually impressed by this work, and after further development, it was published on August 4th. This was the first time readers learned about the existence of the pirate monkey D. Luffy and his crazy rubber powers given by a strange fruit. Although well received, the work wasn't picked up for serialization, and it was also published in the wrong magazine, Shonen Jump Summer Special, which is usually reserved for newcomer manga creators, which Oda was definitely not at this time. For unknown reasons, Oda was also assigned to a different editor shortly after Romance Dawn's publication, so things were not looking so great for Oda's dream. But his new editor, Takanori Hazada, saw Oda's potential and arranged for him to fill an upcoming gap in the weekly Shonen Jump, which was Oda's golden opportunity to seize both the audience and Shonen Jump's executives. He jumped at this and produced a second draft of Romance Dawn within only 2 weeks, which was published in the weekly Shonen Jump on the 23rd of December and saw renewed acclaim and interest by the fans. But despite all this work and his editor's support, Azada's superiors still rejected the serialization. This time around though, Oda had an editor with a real backbone on his back, and Azada went to war with his superiors. He knew Oda had something special in his hands, and he believed this would be the next big thing. Azada argued for the serialization of Romance Dawn for several months, questioning his bosses for hours and hours after work, trying to make them understand how good the material was. He'd reportedly be so frustrated at the rejections that he'd even dream of beating up his superiors. But Azada's hard work and devotion paid off in 1997 after 3 rejections, when Oda's series, now named One Piece, was approved for serialization in May. He had finally become a fully fledged mangaka and achieved his first goal, but the journey was just now starting. Oda officially resigned as Watsuki's assistant on good terms and began working solely on what would become one of the most iconic manga series of all time. Even though One Piece was now to be serialized, Oda's dream was still under threat. Shonen Jump usually gave new serialized series around 10 installments to gauge readers' response and the series' future. And knowing this, Oda and Asada quickly started working on developing the initial concept material of the previous 2 Romance Dawn versions into 8 new chapters. On July 22, 1997, the first chapter of One Piece, also titled Romance Dawn, premiered on Weekly Shonen Jump. To everyone's surprise, it quickly took off, ranking higher in readers' response than any of its co-features. By the end of the year, the series started to be compiled in volumes, or tankobon, with sources estimating 300,000 copies in circulation during the first 5 months of publishing, which was a massive success. By July 26, 1998, 1 year after the manga's release, One Piece received its first original animated adaptation. This adaptation does not contain canon material from the manga, but its different style of animation and voice actors has made it into an historical relic in One Piece's history. The release of the 4th volume of the series also introduced the SBS, Shitsumo Boshsuru, or I'm Taking Questions, a special Q&A column where Oda replies to fan letters and expands on the world of One Piece. It's estimated that by the end of 1998, One Piece had 6 million copies in circulation. But things were only just getting started. By October 1999, Toei Animation released the official anime TV series that we know today, spreading One Piece's fame to an entirely different audience. By 2000, we'd see the first One Piece official movie, which was definitely the start of a trend, as we'd see a new movie being released every year for the next 9 years. It's estimated that 37 million copies of One Piece were in circulation at the end of the year 2000. But even though animes like Dragon Ball and Doraemon had already some presence outside Japan, manga volumes and chapters weren't really widely available for the Western audience until 2002, when Weekly Shonen Jump became Shonen Jump and entered the American market under Viz Media. Alongside One Piece, several other notable manga series translations were introduced to the American audience, like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Naruto. 2002 also saw an estimated 73 million copies of One Piece in circulation. In June 2004, 4Kids Entertainment announced they acquired the license for distribution of One Piece and began releasing its first ever English dubbed version, an event that many consider to be a blemish on One Piece's history. Although it exposed One Piece to millions of people, the TV series was supported by mandated edits, because they didn't realize that One Piece was not targeted towards their demographic, which is why you see characters having lollipops instead of cigarettes or shovels instead of guns. This dub production only lasted for 2 years until it was discontinued by 4Kids in December 2006, and the new production was made by Funimation in 2007. The expansion into the American market by Shonen Jump would be one of the most important moments in anime and manga history, marking the beginning of what many call the second golden age. This expansion, combined with the rising piracy industry of scanlation and fan translations, brought anime and manga into massive popularity. It's the time when the big three were first defined, and also other massively successful series like Death Note, Gintama, and Tigreman became super hits with the international community. So even though One Piece's popularity was growing, it's important to note that this is also part of a wider growth of the industry. By the end of 2008, One Piece was already being distributed in the United Kingdom, Australia and New Zealand, and had over 150 million copies in circulation. The perfect storm for a massive growth was brewing, and Shonen Jump took full advantage of it. This number would pretty much double between 2009 and 2012, with One Piece experiencing a doubling of readership during this time. There are some key reasons for this growth though. In August 2009, Toei, Shueisha, Funimation and Fuji TV started to simulcast stream the new One Piece episodes at the same time. One Piece's 10th film, Strong World, was being heavily promoted globally, which was the first movie to receive that kind of marketing push. But mostly there was a major turning point and dense plot moments in both the manga and the anime, events so big that they echoed through the entire world of manga fandom. You literally couldn't go anywhere on the internet without hearing about the latest One Piece developments. Every chapter and every anime episode that came out was simply bombastic. This major and unprecedented hype around One Piece caused many to finally pick up the series, which resulted in a lot of old volumes being sold during this time, and by the end of 2012, One Piece had 281 million copies in circulation. But around this time, Oda's Herculean effort and dedication to One Piece would start to catch up to him. For someone who was inspired to become a mangaka because drawing wasn't real work, Oda worked extremely hard. If you didn't know, Japan has an entirely different culture relating to work and meeting expectations, and this extends to every industry, including the manga industry and Shonen Jump. Between 1997 and 2012, I could only find 1 week where One Piece didn't release its weekly chapter due to Oda being sick, which was in 2006, but by 2012, Oda worked an average of 21 hours per day. In a typical work week, he'd get up at 5 AM and would work until 2 AM, only taking breaks for basic human necessities. Besides working on the One Piece series, Oda was also involved in many other projects at the same time, like writing and directing the 10th One Piece movie and working on crossover series with other mangaka creators. In an interview from 2012, he talked about how he doesn't have any days off. "I have no days off. If I had them, I'd want to go on a vacation with my family. I just want to go outside, it doesn't matter where. See, I don't get out much." By this time, Oda was married and had 2 daughters. Between 2001 and 2002, Oda found love when he met Chiaki Hinaba, a model and actress at Jump Fiesta. She was cosplaying Nami, and smitten by her beauty and grace, Oda introduced himself. One thing led to another, and they married by 2004. But even family didn't stop Oda from working hard, and this would eventually catch up to him when he was hospitalized for 2 whole weeks due to an infection in his tonsils in 2013. Even during his stay at the hospital, Oda never stopped working, even though the manga series also took a 2-week break. The creator of Naruto, Masashi Kishimoto, visited him to find him working on a One Piece color spread, reportedly being surprised and amazed at Oda's dedication despite the circumstances. Even though Oda had become more health conscious after being discharged and resuming his normal routine, he still lives and breathes One Piece after all, and would face more health problems in the future. By 2019, he'd developed diabetes and gout from spending too much time sitting. He would also regularly skip meals to work and then binge eat to compensate, leading to high blood pressure and weight gain. In this year 2023, Oda also had to take a 1-month break to get eye surgery for his worsening astigmatism between June and July, and came back to work after this month, even though the surgery has an expected 3 to 6 months recovery time. Oda's dedication to his work is truly beyond human, but all of this sacrifice would also see a massive upside for his achievements. One Piece would be the best-selling manga series in Japan for 11 consecutive years between 2008 and 2018, achieving the title of best-selling manga series of all time worldwide with over 300 million copies in circulation in 2013, with advertisements celebrating this milestone being featured in major publications like the New York Times and Taiwan's China Daily. Crunchyroll would also start simulcasting One Piece in 2013, which also played a significant part in distributing the series to an even wider audience, with the series becoming best-selling manga in many other countries like France and Germany. The individual volumes of One Piece also broke several records during this time, including the highest print run of any manga. To this day, One Piece is the only manga to have initial volume prints of above 3 million continuously for more than 10 years, with each and every single volume of the series having sold more than 1 million copies individually. By 2014, Oda would also receive the Guinness World Record for the most copies published for the same comic book series by a single author, with over 320 million copies worldwide, a record that he would break again in August 2022, when the insane number of 500 million copies in circulation was achieved. These milestones would not only cement One Piece as the best-selling manga series of all time to this day, but also put Oda in the category of the 10 best-selling fiction authors of all time. Right now, Oda's life work in sales puts him in the highest of classes, comparable to cultural giants like J.K. Rowling, Shakespeare, Tolstoy, Stephen King, and Tolkien. One Piece is the 20th highest grossing media franchise in the entire world, with an estimated total revenue of $20 billion, which is more than half of its parent company Shonen Jump, which is estimated to be around $34 billion. One Piece has generated more revenue than Transformers, James Bond, and even Lord of the Rings. It's honestly surreal to think about it. With so many achievements under its belt, One Piece is of course loved by millions and millions of fans. While there was a time when anime and manga were somewhat of a niche entertainment medium, nowadays it's completely mainstream and one of the most popular types of animation. We can see an amazing number of high-profile celebrities sharing their love for the series, like Dua Lipa or Jamie Lee Curtis. In the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, the Greek athlete Miltiadis Tentoglou performed one of the most iconic Luffy poses before winning the gold medal in the men's long jump competition. But One Piece's influence goes even further, inspiring even science nomenclature, with the fruit fly gene being named Baramisin, inspired by her character's devil fruit, and another gene from an amoeba being named Arabasta, a location and name of a major arc in One Piece. Just recently, we saw the release of the very anticipated One Piece live-action series on Netflix. The project was announced in 2017, but only released in August 2023 due to delays surrounding COVID. Perhaps aside from Rurouni Kenshin, live-actions never had a good track record and were oftentimes seen more as memes within fan communities, like Death Note or Cowboy Bebop. But One Piece live action was different, not only because Oda was overseeing the project and wouldn't approve anything that could jeopardize the series' integrity, but also because it had an entire team and cast of hardcore fans who worked tirelessly to adapt the material and get all the details that matter right. The release was a massive success, breaking Netflix's viewing records held by Stranger Things and Wednesday, becoming the #1 ranked TV show in 84 different countries around the world, yet again reaching an entirely new audience and positioning One Piece for another wave of explosive growth. It even achieved the #1 most popular series in IMDb of all places. But it's no wonder, because One Piece has become such a household name that each of the live actions episode cost a whopping $17 million to make, which is substantially more than Game of Thrones, by the way. It's very likely we'll see more seasons in production considering this massive success. However, something that everybody knows but many refuse to acknowledge is that One Piece will be ending relatively soon. Oda has already confirmed that we've already started the very last saga of One Piece, and I personally would reckon we have maybe 4 or 5 more years of One Piece releases to enjoy. But perhaps the most important fact about the One Piece journey is that Oda knows exactly how One Piece will end from the very beginning. I think this is one of the key main differences between other series, and it's reflected in the way Oda creates the story and fans feel it intimately through his work. This is why One Piece is deserving of so much love and praise. Most mangas do not have an end goal when they start, but One Piece knows exactly where it's going. Oda knows the precise events that will close the series, he knows the message that he wants to portray, and he has known this since the beginning. Even though Oda initially thought the series would be finished within 5 years, he stretched the story by drawing what he wanted and giving the fans an awesome adventure. We journeyed to so many different islands, and between then a lot of plot was added as well as new characters, events and fruits, but fundamentally speaking, the nature of the story and the destination we're heading to has never changed. The desire to learn what the One Piece actually is shared by both the series protagonists and the fans. And like many other manga series, Oda knows what his mission is with the creation of One Piece and what the central themes of the story are. I set out to draw the manga I wanted to read when I was young. When I started, I had to draw things that didn't exist to get attention. There were plenty of heroes who fought demons and saved the world. The market was saturated with that kind of story. I wanted to do something different but relatable. I understood that I had been supported and helped by a lot of people to get where I was, so friendship became a central theme. Besides this, Oda wants people to have fun reading his work, and he himself wants to have fun drawing One Piece. He knows intimately what One Piece is supposed to be about. For example, many people, myself included in some scenarios, have criticized Oda for not killing characters, for example. But Oda has a very simple reason to do it the way he does it. He wants readers to feel satisfied after an arc ended. He loves to draw party scenes, which are an hallmark of several arcs, and he doesn't want to draw anything that could ruin these scenes. What One Piece is supposed to make people feel is a clear and transparent goal in Oda's mind. And even after all this time and all these setbacks, Oda still loves to draw. I never get tired of drawing. After the planning of the storyboards is done, then it's all about drawing. So I often find myself wanting to get done with the storyboards sooner. I love drawing, so I wish I had more time to draw what I want. But even when I don't have a lot of time, I manage to make do somehow. So naturally, when you have a creator who's so dedicated to his life work and fans, working tirelessly to give us the very best he has to offer, week after week, month after month, year after year for 26 years straight, what you end up with is a story that people want to invest time in discovering. Oda is masterful at telling his story and giving us surprises and something to look forward to. Every time something we've been waiting to learn about is revealed, we always end up with more questions than answers. He always works hard with his editors and assistants in order to go beyond the reader's expectations. And at the same time, he has very well-centered beliefs about what the purpose of manga in itself is. I think the power of manga is that it's the best tool to make friends. In fact, when I was a kid, I made many friends since we shared a lot of interests. Reading manga is for fools is what I used to be told, so I decided to become a mangaka thinking, I'll make a fool of you all. Daksake, a YouTube creator, has an excellent video called Why Does Everyone Love One Piece Now?, where he says something that really stuck with me, and I think it's exactly on point. One Piece is not for everyone, but it has something for everyone. One Piece may not be everyone's favorite series, but it has something for everyone. Oda drew inspiration from all over the world to make his series. From islands inspired by different civilizations and countries, to characters inspired by real pirates, historical figures, or popular characters. There is no shortage of strong political events and plot twists, tales of prejudice and racism, and amazing, emotionally charged battles with victory, grief, and loss. One Piece takes us on an adventure that's filled with meaning and reason. It's wholesome but sometimes brutal. It's goofy and funny, but many times sad enough to make any grown adult cry their heart out. There are all sorts of Easter eggs to discover, from key pieces of the story to funny gag characters that Oda has made up for his readers to find. This level of detail and effort, the relatability of the characters and central themes, and the love Oda gives us when he sits every day for hours drawing, give it so much meaning. And One Piece is so big precisely because it means so much to so many people. It fostered a global community of fans like no other who all enjoy One Piece for different reasons, but all come together with a united love for the series. The fact people from all around the world and from all walks of life have been able to enjoy this masterpiece for so long is a blessing. But while we relish our enjoyment of a series so long with so much to offer, I'm often reminded that not everybody is so lucky. I have seen countless stories from fans who shared One Piece with their family and friends, who passed away and didn't make it to the end of the journey. It's unfortunately a tragic and heartbreaking outcome of a series this long. This is not to make you feel depressed or sad, but to pay homage to all the fans who are no longer here with us to see how far One Piece and Oda have come. I'm dedicating this video to them. And to you watching, make sure to follow your dreams, enjoy the journey, share it with the ones you love, and cherish the memories you make. I think that's one of the most important fundamental messages from One Piece. So to close this long video, I'd like to share not what One Piece means for me, but what it means for Oda.
最後になるんですよ。小田さんにとって、ワンピースとは何でしょうか。
子供の頃の僕が納得するためのお話を作るんだったらちゃんとみんなが納得する最後に納得する話を書こうと思ってやっているのが今ワンピースなのでちゃんと仕上げたいなと思ってます。
If you reached this far, I just really wanted to thank you for sticking around and watching the whole thing. I've been wanting to do this video for a long time now, but it's my first documentary style video, so I really hope you've enjoyed it and learned something new about One Piece. I'm still a very small creator with no ads and unmonetized, and I'm doing all of this work myself out of pure love for One Piece, so if you want to support the channel by subscribing, liking the video, sharing it, or leaving a comment down below, I would really appreciate it. This was a really big project for me and it's a big change from the content I was doing, so I'm not sure what video will be coming next, but if you have any ideas, feel free to let me know. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you scallywags on the next one. Peace.